All right, this is Henry Norwood. He is an undergraduate, soon to graduate, one more semester. Well, technically, he was graduated at
Yeah, that's right.
seriously, he did do that. He did do that. There is a certificate that I created for language rejuvenation and maintenance, and Henry decided he couldn't graduate last semester, decided he wanted the certificate. It is unique as a certificate. I hate to give this away because everyone's going to start doing it. What makes this certificate unique is a student has to teach a language for a full semester. And I don't think any other program has that happening. And so I've had 3 students go do it. The first student taught Blackfoot. He's now up on the Blackfoot Reservation. He taught language up there for a while. He's now the director of Blackfoot Native American Studies, the school system. Shay, who will be here later on, hopefully today, she was the second person that has done it. There was Haley, who's also Blackfoot. As an undergraduate student, we lost our first language speaker. She didn't pass away, but she was from Canada and she couldn't teach. And things got in a little bit of an uproar, and I said, I want Haley in there teaching Blackfoot. She's a second language learner. And her first semester teaching, I was teaching Arapaho, and I went in to observe the class. And I know this is supposed to be about you, but we got some time. I went in to observe the class, and I think I was in my 3rd week, and I left the class, and I was observing her class the night before, and the next morning I walked into the room and said, all right, you guys, we need to up our game because Haley is passing us up. This is a second language learner. She's using the method that I developed, ASLA, and her students were literally passing me up, and the students, and they were blazing. She's taught the class stories, and this is all in one semester. So as an undergraduate, she has had students acquire more Blackfoot than I think any other teacher that has taught it at the university. Henry was the next person, the fourth person, and because we didn't have a class, because normally he was supposed to graduate, so we started in the fall, and normally what they do is I step out of my class, and they step in and teach in my class, and that was an interesting situation because the chair of anthropology department said, well, you can't do that. You can't put a student in there and just have them teach. And I'm like, sure. It's part of the certificate, and that's what's happening. And so that is what happened. So because there wasn't a class, because I only teach my class in the spring, he's been teaching me German, and he'll talk a little bit about that. And it's kind of crazy because I developed this method, and the thing that made it challenging is because we would go for sometimes 3 weeks without a lesson because he was doing forestry and chocolate trees and zany trees and all sorts of stuff. And I'd step in the classroom and I'd say stuff like, no, it can't be this phrase or word. And he goes, well, that's it. And I'll go, where did that come from? How did I know that? Literally, that would happen. And he'd laugh at me. And he'd go, you developed this? I go, I know, but I don't understand how this is happening. It was really crazy. So anyhow, I'm going to turn it over to you, Henry.
Sure. Sounds good.
And enjoy.
So I first encountered ASLA in his Methods of Teaching Indigenous Languages course, where he taught me the Arapaho language using the ASLA method. And then, like he said, I taught him German through ASLA. So these are just like the quick bullet points of why ASLA is so exceptional. It's unmatched in speed of acquisition, retention, confidence in speaking, complex themes of grammar, and there's I'll get to it later, but playing in the language is unparalleled to any other method. And that makes sense when we get to that slide. And it really mimics the experience of being immersed in the speaking community, which is amazing. attention, ASLA allows for even the most sporadic teaching times to work. Greg Morning said 3 weeks. The longest we had gone between classes was actually 6 weeks. And he was able to jump right back in and get, I think, 90% right, something like that.
It was pretty high.
Pretty high. So it really allows itself to short teaching times, sporadic teaching times, and logistical issues that would normally not work with conventional means. I attended a conference with Greg Morning in March of this year, and at about 2 to 5 minutes of Blackfoot language instruction. There was only 8 words, but I still remember, I think, 6 of them over 2 minutes. My first Gussie, Gonskina, Moose, Ninna, Akikuan, Sasapapus, all with 2 to 5 minutes, and I don't think I could do that with conventional means or TBR. I kind of put this I'm a little bitter. I feel a little let down by conventional education because I had taken 8 years of German education, 4 years in high school, 4 years in college, and with a semester of Arapaho, I feel more confident in that than I do with German, which is hard to grasp, especially for me. But just there's no confidence in my German speaking ability compared to Arapaho. When I'm teaching Gray Morning, I'm constantly looking up the correct grammar, correct adjective endings, and that just doesn't happen with Arapaho. And this last point is really important to me because through conventional means, especially at the university, to teach a language, they're relying on another linguistic language. So instead of saying, say the boy went down the street, they're saying, well, you have to say this, but the boy, so it's masculine, but he went, so it's past tense. And the road is accusative case because he's walking down the road. And so now you're trying to piece together all these words that really mean nothing, but just interfere with your ability to speak. And so I myself and many in especially in the Russian courses, get just completely frozen and paralyzed by trying to use, Gray Morning describes it as using a symbolic system on top of another symbolic system, and the wires just get crossed. And so, ASLA, you're just speaking in the target language, and so you don't have to convert it to past participle, correct grammar, and tense. You just speak. And the ASLA courses really replicate immersion. Immersion, I think, is the best option for learning a target language, but as we all know, it's pretty difficult. There's no way that I can feasibly go down to the Wind River Reservation to learn Arapaho, and same with many others. It's hard to get first language speakers in classes. And so you don't even have to be a first language speaker to use ASLA effectively. You just have to pronounce it right and probably attend one of Gray Morning's workshops to understand how it's best practiced. But yeah, it's amazing. Like Haley Running Crane is a perfect example. She's a second language Blackfoot speaker. She runs the Blackfoot program at the U and has great success doing it. It's good for me to be on both sides, teaching and learning through ASLA. I say survival mode because it's not as pleasant for the student in ASLA as it is in conventional education methods. In conventional classes, you can sit in the back and be on your phone and still get an okay grade, and you don't have to care or invest in the language. That is not the case with ASLA, especially in Gray Morning's courses. You are constantly engaged, and this is done by, a student will be working on the board, choosing images that fit what Gray Morning's saying, but all
all the other students know that they're next, so they can't be slacking off. Because if you get up in front of the board, in front of a room full of people, and flounder, you're going to be embarrassed. But that floundering is also what makes great connections with the language. As I say, getting lost in the images. You know, if you're looking for the image of boy, and you know what the image is, and you're trying to find the image for boy, but there's 96 images on the board. Where is boy? Why can't I find boy? And that forms these super strong connections in the language that really mimics immersion. When I was in Germany, I went to a bakery, and she asked me, "What do you want?" Very easy question, should be answerable to a speaker who's had education for 8 years, 6 years, and I completely froze up. I was not able to answer her. What do you want? Very simple. And that kind of panic and trying to find the right word is exactly replicated through ASLA, which is really powerful. As far as language theorizers, that's kind of what I was getting at with the linguistic language on top of the target language. So through conventional education, you're learning grammar. You're learning more about language structure than speaking. So I like to say that ASLA creates speakers instead of language theorizers. You're not theorizing about past participles and adjectives and complex grammar. You're just speaking it. And then especially in the Arapaho course, intangible aspects of the language remain preserved. And it's hard to put language on that one, but you can, especially with Great Warning's input, you can really see the specific worldview to the target language. So getting off the board is a term that we use, and that's the natural progression of ASLA into conversation. So I remember some of you saw it yesterday, where Great Warning and I were able to converse. That's kind of what ASLA is getting towards. It allows for playing in the language that is unparalleled. I'm kind of skipping around here, but students in his course were dreaming in Arapaho by week 2 of education, which is incredible. That's just, I wasn't dreaming in German until maybe my 3rd year of learning that language. And the ASLA method really allows for latitude for the speaker and for the instructor and the student to go anywhere with the board. So he'll have an image of a woman singing and then people dancing. So he'll say, why are the people dancing? Oh, because she's singing. But you can play around, why is the man fishing? Why is the man fishing over here? Oh, because there's fish over here, if that makes sense. You can think outside the box. My friend who is in the course and I continue our Arapaho education at work. So we paint trees to keep them from getting cut down. And we'll just play in the language. So I would say like, Isakua Bechde Besbinehi Bithawa Neheha. Can you roughly translate that?
Couldn't hear all of it from the back. Say it again.
Isakua Bechde Besbinehi Bithawa Neheha.
It's the transliteration would be like a saw's eating a tree.
Right. Yeah. So we don't know the grammatically correct forms or the true words of the language, but I'm able to say, I see the metal wood eater, or like a chainsaw, it's eating that tree. And Great Warning was able to play in the language too. There's an image of a cat in a hat. So eine Katze in einem Hut, and he's able to say, ein Hut auf meinem Kopf, which seems simple and insignificant, but there was no sentence or image like that on the board. So he's able to take those pieces and form a cogent sentence, which is amazing. And that last one is incredibly important. Students take a lot of pride in the target language that is not seen in conventional education. Like I said, in high school and university courses, disengaged. They're doing it because it's a required course. They're in the back playing on their phone. They don't care. But the ASLA method allows students to be so invested in learning. They don't want to get pulled off the board. They want more and more and more language. It's amazing. Clark was telling me a story. I can't remember the boy's name, who was making fun of you for not singing it correctly. And that's the kind of pride that ASLA can allow for. Some considerations for choosing it. It definitely requires an agreement between the student and the instructor to not use their first language. It's a really easy crutch to use, and it'll kill the magic in the course. And that's what happens in conventional education. Oh, these kids don't get it. I'll just translate it for them, and then they lose interest. It definitely requires more care and specific instruction than conventional means. You have to know how to work people through the board, if they get stuck, how to work them out of that, and you have to be very patient and trust that the student will self-correct and correct their mistakes without your translation or your interference. And that is hard. That is hard to do, to just let the student go forth and know that they will get it right. And then I just have more stories of getting off of the board that would never happen through conventional means. So my buddy and I are painting trees, and he doesn't know the word Janataya. And so I say, Sisei Janataya. Okay, kind of get it. And then we're walking down the road and I see a blue jay, and I pointed at a blue jay. It's like, Nehat Niehi Janataya. It's like, oh, Janataya is blue. I get it. And so that, I don't know, I would never play with German like that outside of the language, but Arapaho allows that. So we'll also say, we don't know how to say paint that tree, but we'll say glue that tree because the paint's blue. So we'll say so these are not grammatically correct by any means, but you're able to keep learning and keep the language going outside of the class 6 months after the course is ended. And then also working in the woods, there's a lot of poisonous berries. And so you say, don't eat those berries. So I think